Story 1. Her children dropped the popcorn, so she asked me for a broom so they could clean it themselves. I said it was not necessary, but she insisted she wanted to teach them to be aware that when they make a mess, someone has to clean it. Nice lady. 5 out of 5. Story 2. Very polite but also incredibly awkward for some reason. Story 3. Very friendly. Usually orders a root beer to start and a coffee after the meal. Eats out on break from lunch daily. Prefers quick service with minimal interruptions and sometimes dines with a client. Generally tips well. Made many additional requests during peak dinner hour and left the table very messy. Did not tip well. This guest is personable. They welcome suggestions, so offer a drink and be prepared to recommend some lesser-known dishes. They will converse as long as you allow. I try to inform other servers what to expect at each table. Story 4. The woman who yelled at me on the second day of my first job over the price of milk deserves 1 star. Story 5. They came on opening weekend of one of the biggest movies of the year 5 minutes before showtime and were shocked that they had to stand in line for concessions. Then they complained to management that they had missed their movie. What did they think was going to happen? Would we have reserved a place in line for them because of their obvious very important person status as King Dushalord of Asland? Story 6. They came in, ordered, ate in silence, left a minimal mess and a reasonable tip, and then departed. My perfect customer. 5 stars. Story 7. You were the most unreasonable person I have ever met. Every single person, from the ushers who are volunteers to the other patron who offered their seat, wanted to help. I wanted to help you. I know when you are unable to transfer out of your wheelchair, it is frustrating. It must be maddening when the house manager cannot remove the seat in the center of the theater, which was bolted to the concrete floor and to the other seats in the row, so you could place your wheelchair there. I am sorry that our accessible seating required by the Americans with Disabilities Act was at the front and rear of the theater and not where you purchased your ticket. I am sorry that when you called our box office you did not mention your inability to transfer out of your wheelchair. You did not need to yell, curse, or hit me in front of everyone waiting to watch Miss Saigon. You are the first and only person to whom I have issued a refund just to get someone to stop screaming. When you needed to return to the lobby and could not push your wheelchair up the ramp, I tried to help. I offered to push it myself, but you insisted I should not touch the wheelchair. Please note, no one had ever called me the F word or the C word before. Kudos to your creativity. I offered to find your husband or boyfriend. He was at the bar ordering his 3rd whiskey. The lobby had been open only 20 minutes at that point. Again, you declined assistance. It was astounding when you stood up and walked the wheelchair back to the box office on your own. When your husband asked why you were leaving, you said you did not want to sit in our fucked up seats. I assumed you had a condition that made sitting for long periods uncomfortable and asked if there was a way to accommodate you so you could see the show. Then your husband called you an old bat who was just trying to get free tickets and shouted that you were not disabled and that the whole thing was an act. I bid you both good night. 1 star. I would have given 0 stars, but I reserve that for the person who tried to kill me because a queue was not moving fast enough for them. Summary. A woman tried to fake needing a wheelchair to get free tickets, which she almost got until her companion ratted her out. Not the worst experience I have had in nearly 15 years of customer service, but it was close. Story 8. A drunk man tried to return a half bottle of liquor because it tasted off. He got into his car, and someone promptly called the police to report a drunk driver. Story 9. Becky and Judy. 5 stars. After 2 glasses of Tempranillo, Judy will order a half glass. Ask Judy if she went to physical therapy today for her shoulder. If she did, serve her a full glass. Becky will wink at you. Story 10. A customer walked in the front door of my completely closed, curbside-only pub today and asked if we had any steak. He ignored a giant sign that said, "Please stay outside. We will bring your phone or online order out to you." 0 out of 5 stars. I almost had a rage stroke. Edited to add, this is the 2nd time he's done it. Story 11. A nice, pleasant man. He always orders the same sandwich, which makes preparation simple despite the sandwich's complexity. He tips well and never talks longer than it takes to complete his order. He is also the only regular male over 50 who does not leer at my underage coworker. 5 stars. Story 12. She lied about her hair history and wanted white blonde in a single session on her virgin dark hair. But the strand test proved that false. She said she could do it herself at home and turned her hair orange. She returned for a color correction. After I explained why, she could not have blonde. She said she would settle for anything but orange and something lighter than her natural color. I gave her a beautiful chocolate and caramel color. She cried because it was not blonde, complained it was too expensive, and left no tip. Not worth my time. Story 13. A guest arrived in the middle of a festival without a reservation, by car, and blamed me after a 2-hour drive to reach the city entrance because 200,000 people were in the streets and police had set up barricades to manage pedestrian flow. He then blamed me again when we were full. What did he expect? Walking in without a reservation during the city's largest festival. 1 star. Would not recommend. Story 14. She could not operate the front desk bell. She demanded a reduced rate because we had run out of complimentary coffee, and she could not wait the 2 minutes it would take to brew a new pot. She also insulted the housekeepers. 0 stars. Wow. My first silver. Thank you, kind stranger. Story 15. She walked into the store and complained that the outside smelled of gasoline. I told her we would address that issue as soon as an employee became available. The customer was apparently unaware that she was pumping gas while complaining about the smell. Perhaps she could consider not inhaling fumes while filling her tank. Edit. Holy shnikes. My most upvoted comment ever is about someone sniffing gasoline. Story 16. This man can't seem to grasp the basic concept of why films have age ratings, or why his 9-year-old was not allowed to watch Sausage Party. Story 17. We were literally hunkered down in the basement with the gunman upstairs, detectives on the phone, a pregnant, crying customer, and all the staff. Yet this jackass still had the nerve to ask if his watch had finished being repaired before the first shot rang out. He then screamed at the detectives that this was a huge inconvenience, that he had clients waiting in court, and that he needed this to be over. Story 18. It makes me think of the Black Mirror episode where everyone has a social score and others can see it. Story 19. The curly-haired young man with glasses and a baggy, skater style clearly smokes a lot of marijuana. He comes in high, orders food, and is always very polite. As polite as a customer can be. He sits and waits for his order with a stupid smile, staring off into space about 3 times a week. I do not know him, but I love him, bro. I should mention I am a stoner myself, so I like him even more. Story 20. This rich, entitled woman spent the entire time making me run for her 12 top and was never satisfied or appreciative. I kept serving them with a smile, which wasn't always easy. When it came time to drop the bill, I left it on the table and informed them the tip was already included for parties of more than 8, so there was no need to add extra unless they wanted to. She stood up and started freaking out in the dining room about how she shouldn't have to pay because she had to ask me for things the entire meal. It was a buffet. What else could she possibly need? I got her everything she wanted. I suppose I could have offered to perform a sexual favor, but I digress. She complained to the general manager, who was a pushover, and let her go without tipping a single penny. This woman is horrible to serve. Do not accept her table. You will regret it. I've seen her come in since, and even if she sits in my section, I always give her table away to someone else. No way am I ever trying to serve her again. Get some decency. Story 21. I just wish the woman who cuts my hair would discreetly tell me whether I am a good tipper or not. While I am at it, how much should I put on the tip line of a takeout receipt? I am just making that up as I go. I am totally not ready for a reverse Yelp. Story 22. She practically drinks all the salsa, and I keep having to give her refills. Her chip to salsa ratio is seriously questionable. Otherwise, she is nice enough. I misread the question. I thought it asked what review someone would leave of me. I am the salsa lover. Story 23. I worked in a grocery store years ago. A child kept running up and down the aisle. He turned a corner and collided with a corn syrup display. It was a total mess and the child was covered in syrup. The mother demanded that I find clothes for her child to wear. Without skipping a beat, I asked if she wanted paper or plastic. I would not recommend that mother shop there again. Story 24. Stupid bitch ordered a frappuccino with no ice, then proceeded to be angry because there was no ice. When we asked her if she wanted ice, she screamed no. I hope she stubs her toe every day for the rest of her life and that she gets cheated on. I would give 0 stars, but Yelp makes me give 1, so I guess good job at wasting space. Story 25. A rude customer kept trying to order a cheeseburger without cheese, even though I suggested she order a hamburger to save money. 30 seconds later, she paid the price of a cheeseburger without the cheese. 1 star. Story 26. I threw a drink at my lead. 0 out of 10. Get fucked sideways with a poleaxe, you afterbirth. Story 27. 0 stars. He followed me around during my graveyard shift, asked where to find a prostitute or a strip club, and talked about how he likes to perform oral sex in prison. He took photos of my breasts after trying and failing to record me saying I love big black cock because I refused, and he said he could tell I shave my pubic area. The only upside is he got himself banned from every establishment in our province, so I never have to see him again. He was an American tourist. Story 28. This old man threw a tantrum over canned noodles. I told him they were on the shelf, but he insisted there were bags in the boxes on top. I said the boxes were full of the same brand, but he did not listen and caused a scene. I climbed a step stool to get my card to show him, but he started hitting his cart and yelling, "Damn it." I got so angry I ripped a box off the top shelf and cans went everywhere. He shrugged, said guess they were cans, and walked off. 20 minutes later, he returned and bought the cans. 0 out of 10. Story 29. A middle-aged woman insulted the staff and yelled that Valentine's Day was meant to be about her when she was served a fish 1/millionth of a millimeter shorter than her husband's. She refused to pay after eating the whole fish. She asked for a finger bowl to clean her fingers and threw a tantrum when there was no lemon with it. I went and personally cut some lemon for the finger bowl. When I gave it to her, she told me my attitude was disgusting because I smiled too much. She made me sweep away a puddle so she would not get her shoes wet. She could have easily walked around it, but she insisted it was Valentine's Day and she did not have to. She did not leave a tip, and I hope she never breathes. Story 30. Right now, all is good. I miss my customers so much, even the difficult ones. I told my least favorite customer the other day to say hello to his wife for me. I hate her too. They are both awful. But I think he was about to cry. He literally stopped in his tracks, turned around, and said, "We miss you. This sucks." You know what? He can be a jerk, but I miss him too. Maybe this is a reset for all of us. When we get out of this mess, maybe we can stop being rude and stop taking each other for granted. We can appreciate the things we usually overlook. If not, I'll still be happy to complain about the jerk at table 3. He's unpleasant, but at least I get to complain about him again. Story 31. Kelsey brought her entire tribe to get tattooed. All 10 of them were turning 18, but only Kelsey was getting a tattoo. She refused to listen to my advice about size and kept insisting I make it progressively smaller, saying she wanted it medium, dainty, and cute. When it came time to do the tattoo, she was not wearing appropriate clothing even though she had thought about her horoscope sign for weeks. Her friends convinced her to change the placement several times before we discovered the initial placement I had chosen was correct. When it came time to pay, she tried to haggle by saying she had a cousin with his own tattoo gun who would do it for 1/3 of my price. After all that, even though I had done the work perfectly, she did not tip. 0 stars. Story 32. I had a customer who was on the phone during the entire order while I was trying to make her burrito. I kept asking what she wanted in it, but she wouldn't answer. I started to wrap it up, but then she began to yell at me because she was not finished and complained that I needed to do my job better. Meanwhile, she was still talking on the phone and we had 30 other people in line because it was rush hour. 0 stars. Maybe try not to be such a difficult customer next time. Story 33. Uber has a system like this where they rate passengers. I like it because good customers get full ratings and are more likely to get drivers to respond. Bad customers go to the back of the line. I am proud to say that I am a 5-star passenger, which is not a major accomplishment. It means I was well behaved and sat quietly while the driver took me to my destination. Customer service goes both ways. Good customers should receive good service. Abusive or disruptive customers should be given the minimum service or removed. Story 34. A Karen came up to me today, demanding that we make her a vegetarian burger. I told her that this is Taco Bell. She did not take that well and started yelling. I asked her to stop, but she continued. I would like to give her 0 stars. Story 35. She tried to pay in cash after not reading our card's only sign. When informed we could not take cash, she threw a temper tantrum and cursed at us. 0 out of 5 stars. Update. The only reason we are not accepting cash is because of the pandemic. We usually do not care. Story 36. They left me a tip that looked like a $10 bill, but when I unfolded it, it was just a prayer. I hope they rot in hell. I would give them 0 stars if I could. Story 37. I work in a non-profit performing arts theater. Canceling a show is not as simple as announcing it, even if you are producing it. The board, including the playwright and director, must approve it. The unions involved must be notified and agree to the plan. And you must pay everyone's salaries in full even though there is no show. It is a long process with many moving parts. And these fucking ungrateful rich folks, sitting on their lily-white asses, keep calling and emailing our call center, where I work, to passive-aggressively tell us off for not canceling shows fast enough, to demand refunds on tickets or donations, and then to declare they will never come again because we do not care about them or their well-being. Some are even outright racist and have threatened the theater. Rating -10. These low-class fucktards make early 2000s Paris Hilton and the Kardashians look sane. Story 38. I have talked about this idea many times. It would be so magical. I greeted the table and they did not look at me. They only asked for water. I brought them water and took their food order, which was difficult because they asked many questions that reading the menu would have answered. When I delivered the food, no one was paying attention and they could not remember what they had ordered. Overall, they were rude and annoying, but they left an 18% tip, which was better than I expected. 3 out of 5 stars. I cannot really recommend them. Story 39. Chased me across the parking lot with a cattle prod. 1 star. Story 40. She only ever tips the coins left from the transaction, usually 5 cents. While waiting for her order, she loudly explains the most recent conservative talking points to everyone in earshot. On her last visit, which was the day the shelter-in-place order was announced here in San Francisco, she spent 20 minutes ranting that only businesses had the authority to close themselves. I truly hope never to serve her again. 1 star. Story 41. A woman hassled me while I was ringing up her candy, giving me dirty looks and openly berating me. My supervisor saw it on camera and let me know I had handled it with grace. I hope that, for the sake of other retail employees, you do not encounter her. 2 stars. What a jerk, but I was commended. Story 42. Started out okay, but interaction quickly declined when a customer was mildly inconvenienced by new guidelines put in place due to the ongoing global pandemic. I should have spoken to a manager about the abysmal behavior. I lost faith in this company as a brand and will not be using it again until my bosses make me because their money is more important than my safety. If I am essential, how can they treat me like freshly churned peacock shit? 0 out of 10 stars. Horrible idea, massive design flaws. Story 43. Today a family came into the restaurant and ordered a large amount of sushi rolls and some chicken hibachi. At first, there were no issues with payment or behavior. After we gave the children forks, they began flinging rice at each other. The parents did not react and left the area covered with rice. They did not leave a tip or offer an apology for the mess I had to clean. I would not recommend seating this family when their children are present. Story 44. Shout out to the man who did not know what wontons are in a wonton soup and yelled at me for not taking them out, even though he only said no noodles, which are not wontons but crackers for the soup. You stupid old man. I hope you die. I cried in the bathroom, asshole. 1 star. Story 45. 5 stars for the sweet southern lady who comes in and is kind to all of us. 0 stars for the older customer who always orders a large unsweetened tea with 2 Splenda packets and 2 equal packets because she has a horrible temper. Story 46. This woman lives in the apartment building at the back of the complex, which spans acres and is full of dozens of the worst speed bumps you can imagine. They will tear up your car's suspension if you go over them faster than walking speed. She texted me asking me to leave her food at the door because she wanted a contact-free delivery. Fine. I got to the building, but there is no apartment 109. I called and texted and got no answer. Why would you not answer your phone after placing an expensive food order? I could not get an answer, so I'm having a Thai feast tonight. Usually I give extra food to people in need, but not this time. Story 47. Amy's baking company did not like the food and sent it back. Probably because they are cyberbullies. Do you remember them from Kitchen Nightmares? That tells you what I have been watching all day in quarantine. Story 48. She made a suggestive gesture and said she would prefer to hire a certified nursing assistant from a similar culture to her own. She called the highly skilled and polite certified nursing assistant. I sent her a racial slur and refused to let her into the home. I billed her for the certified nursing assistant's time anyway, and she let the bill go to collections on principle. 0 stars, would not recommend. Story 49. She constantly told me how to do my job, which I had been doing for 10 years. I am amazed she knew so much yet did not do it herself to save the labor costs. Pro tip. Some private customers in civil construction can be difficult to work for. Experiences vary widely. Story 50. Stupid bastard didn't understand that just because the other McDonald's had something doesn't mean this one does. Sorry, we aren't allowed to sell buffalo sauce here, sir. Trust me, if we could, we would. 1 star. Story 51. I've seen mine. I have a pool hall that I have been visiting regularly for 7 years. I'm known well enough that I never leave any form of collateral when I open a tab. Occasionally another server will start my tab if someone is tied up briefly or switches sections mid-shift. Sometimes the server is new or rarely works the shifts that match my regular visits. For whatever reason, there is a standing note in parentheses next to my name in their point-of-sale system. I highly doubt it is unique to me. I make a point to be courteous, friendly, and patient, even when staff are often neglectful and loiter at the bar. I never hit on them or mistake their friendliness for flirtation because it is wrong to harass someone doing a job that requires them to be nice. Sometimes I settle up at the point of sale and get a glance, an insight into how they view me. Dreamrock, he tips. I find this amusing. Having worked in enough pool halls, I know that's notable information to share with coworkers. Story 52. The customer yelled at me for doing my job and, when I would not give her what she wanted, she threatened to call the police. I told her to calm down several times, but she did not take it well and demanded to speak to my manager. When I told her I was the manager, she was flabbergasted, and I banned her from all my stores. She said she would get the place shut down, but the store still stands. 0 out of 5 stars. Story 53. A grown man ordered the children's barbecue chicken. When he received it, he complained that it was not enough food. Staff explained the difference between the children's and adult menus for 5 minutes, and he asked for the manager. He received the meal for free and extra food, and did not leave a tip. 0 star customer. For 0.5 star finesse. Story 54. A review about me would say she kept saying thank you every time I refilled her cup, stacked the plates, wiped the table, picked up the food her daughter threw, and left a note on the receipt with a tip. She had a mouthful of food whenever I checked on her, asked for a lot of bread, ate off her husband's plate, and was very loud. Story 55. The customer was polite and grateful even when I brought his food out late. Although I neglected to refill his drink for 30 minutes, he thanked me when I finally did and left a decent tip. He smiled and thanked me for everything I did. 10 out of 10. I would serve him again. I have 2 things on my mind. 1, my dad always told me that everyone should work in retail and in a restaurant at some point so they know what it is like and treat people with respect. 2, the movie Fight Club and the line clean food please remind me of the things someone could do to your food if you were rude. Story 56. He called saying his television was broken and that he had tried everything. The power cord was unplugged, which proved otherwise. 1 out of 5 stars. He did manage to plug the cable back in. Story 57. I can't think of a review, so feel free to help me out. On one of my last shifts at a breakfast spot, I suggested avocado eggs Benedict with bacon. The server said they would enter it as avocado toast add bacon. So I put it in that way. When the food arrived, they insisted they had ordered avocado Benedict with bacon and said I had suggested it. I told them no, I had suggested avocado toast with bacon. They argued. One kept her order and the other accepted mine and paid. Our tables are very close together. When you exit a table, you will almost hit the table next to you. My other guests, a mother and daughter, were sitting right next to them the whole time. When they paid, they left a note saying, "She definitely said avocado toast." That means the servers were talking loudly enough for nearby guests to overhear. It still makes me smile during quarantine. Story 58. Someone at a coffee shop asked me whether we served coffee. I stood there for 30 seconds, unsure how to respond. Story 59. Neonatal Intensive Care Unit Nurse Report. When encouraged to participate in daily care, the baby's mother said she found changing soiled diapers unpleasant and refused to do so. The current parental rating is 1 out of 5 stars. Would not recommend. Story 60. Bike shop employee here. He was a relaxed guy. He was one of the few customers who could tell the difference between a task that only looked like it could be resolved quickly and one that actually could be done between 2 jobs. He did not get angry about waiting. He chose to enjoy some time sitting in the sun until his turn. He said, "Just fix it whenever you can and give me a call when it's done." He came back an hour later, surprised that we had fixed it the same day. He added, "I must admit I enjoyed the unplanned walk in the sun." He left the usual roundup tip, since most customers do not want small change and prefer rounding to the nearest 5 or 10. He noticed I was eyeing the parts he wanted replaced, the nice Shimano pedals, and told me he did not expect them back. They look great on my bike as well. 10 out of 10. I would gladly do business with him again. He will get a nice discount if I ever meet him again. Story 61. A bank executive in his 50s screamed in my face because we had run out of ketchup packets for his breakfast roll. 1 out of 10. Would not recommend. Story 62. Everyone who argues with me about the procedures I have to follow because of the coronavirus disease 2019 will receive their own review. Sorry, ma'am. I do not care if you come from a family of nurses. My mother is a nurse too. I am still going to put your waffle cone in a bag and your ice cream in a separate bowl. Stop complaining about your ice cream when you should not even be leaving your house to come to a Baskin-Robbins. Have a good day. Story 63. 1 star. A customer insisted it was cheaper to buy 6 individual cheeseburgers rather than a bag of 5 plus 1 extra. It is actually cheaper to buy the bag of 5 and an extra burger, but they bought 6 individual burgers. I decided that if someone argued with me about prices, we would do it the more expensive way. I have worked here for almost a year, so I know what is cheaper and what is not. Story 64. During brunch, a group of 5 women cussed me out for not being fast enough with the food, despite having just come from church. They left $5 total with a note reading, "I give God 15%. 1 out of 5 stars. Story 65. Nice guy who comes in about once a month. We mess up his order every time, but he never complains. He eats it and leaves a 20% tip. Legend has it that once we finally got his order right, he tipped 40%. Story 66. From my short-lived career as a waiter, I have found that people are cunts and I have lost all hope for humanity. Story 67. An incredibly kind man, after being accidentally doused with beer, when a waitress tripped and a glass fell from a tray onto his back, simply said he needed a cool down. He assured the shocked waitress that everything was fine and continued his evening as if nothing had happened. He returned to the restaurant frequently, greeted the waitress with a warm smile, and never mentioned the incident again. 10 out of 10. I was working at a high-class restaurant at the time, and I would have expected a tantrum, as most other posh people would over far smaller incidents. Story 68. I will write a negative review of your review criticizing me. Karen. Story 69. I worked in an Indian food store selling vegetables, spices, and other items. I was often plagued by customers with huge attitudes who thought highly of themselves. It was rare that one of them would be decent. One day, while I was stocking shelves of incense sticks and burners, which smelled terrible, my manager told me to work at the cash register and pack bags. A man asked me to help with the packets and gave me 100 rand, the South African currency. That meant a lot, since I was only paid 150 rand per weekend. I appreciated the kindness. I give that act 5 out of 5 stars and highly recommend acts of kindness. Story 70. A caller asked about a transaction. Although I explained 5 times in different ways why I could not return the money, he kept screaming and was very rude. Would not recommend. Story 71. Stupid people come into our shop to sit and chat. We don't need your company. We are busy, and you are taking up valuable parking space. Story 72. I would imagine anyone who has worked in retail or the food industry would deserve 5 stars for their considerate attitude toward everyone around them. Story 73. She walked in with attitude, and in tow were Thing 1 and Thing 2. She strolled to the customer service desk while her companions loitered. The waiting line was non-existent, or so we were told. We gave her a polite nod for the back of the line, to which she stammered, "Oh, I don't have time." Livid rage ensued. A polite next was issued. She stomped back and forth looking for anything to throw. When her turn came, she presented a sad-looking Xbox 360 with a dirty vent. "I'd like to return this," she stammered. Thing 1 and Thing 2 clambered about, arguing and bickering, causing quite a ruckus. She searched her purse for a receipt as if rehearsed. She produced a piece of paper, crumpled, torn, and very thin. "Here it is," she yelled as she tossed it forward. The paper unfolded. It was not a receipt and smelled like a game. "I'm sorry, I can't accept this return, ma'am," said the employee. The woman's jaw dropped and she screamed for a manager. Yelling and demanding did not change the decision. The manager denied the request. After more screaming and threats, she was escorted out. She then returned through another door, threatened, "Kiss your families goodbye," grabbed the item she had brought in, and stormed out. A fellow employee collapsed to the floor sobbing. Her mother was already seriously ill. In summary, a customer tried to return a 7-year-old Xbox 360 without a receipt. After we denied the return, she became aggressive and was escorted out of the store. She returned through another door, retrieved the item, and threatened staff. I told her to fuck off. And one of my coworkers began crying because her mother was already in the hospital. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.